Memory Foam, a cool side of the pillow spin-off show where Vince and Josh talk on a variety of topics.
Almost nothing is off limits.
From dreams to pop culture, join us as our boys blurt out complete and utter nonsense until they tire themselves out. Please, just try to enjoy it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Memory Foam. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, my co-host, Vince. Hey, Vince. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not too much. How are you, my guy?
I'm good. You know what? So I was thinking about is you. I've been thinking about you. How you still buy physical media a lot of the time, right? What have you bought recently? I'm kind of curious.
Just all kinds of random stuff. I don't get as crazy as I used to, but if it's something like a franchise or something I'm really into or I love, I want to own a piece of it. Like there's that saying, you'll own nothing and like it. And I'm like, well, the hell with that. No way. Not for this guy. So I don't know if I'm just too old school or what. And I know there's been a revival of like, Gen Zers wanting more physical media. They're getting burnt out from their phones and laptops and tablets and everything. So like, it's just something I don't really care if other people do it or not. I mean, it's awesome that people do. And I think lost media is important, and owning a piece of something. But I'm not as crazy as I used to be. But like, recently I've bought like, the latest Batman movie, The Batman. If I find something that's like, oh, this is pretty cheap, it's fine, whatever. Because I'm a fan of Batman, not like a mega fan, but I'm into Batman, whatever. Random silly stuff like Howard the Duck or like the Wile E. Coyote, run. Just a bunch of random stuff. The Spider-Man Deadpool run from 2016 to 2019. Just stuff that I like. I mean, it's all stuff that, you could get on a service or stream or whatever. And streaming's great, but, sometimes they edit stuff out. Sometimes there's episodes that aren't available. Sometimes it's only specific to certain countries, licensing deals, all that. Yeah.
No, because you also bought... I was reading The Absolute Batman, the new kind of alternate universe Batman. I really liked it. I'm like, Vince, you check it out. I think some other friends of yours are even bigger Batman fans. Said check it out, and you got it, but you bought the actual.
Oh, I
comics,
did. Yeah,
right?
I forgot to mention. Yeah,
novels.
Yeah, the first two, the like little trade paperbacks, the first two volumes. Yes, yet to read, but yes,
oh, okay.
I do have those.
I think it's awesome. I love how they kind of switched things up. I kept all the characters in there and give different backstories. But So how come you like? I did it on the DC Comics app or whatever. How you prefer to get it physically? Do you just like holding the actual copies, or
I like holding the actual copies. And again, it's my paranoia. If it's something I like, it's something I want to hold on to. Maybe it's a me thing, but I think maybe a lot of people are like this, where if it's something you love, you want to make sure you have a copy of it or you have it, because you never know when it just might not be available. I'm not saying it's going to be like Fahrenheit 451 or whatever it is, where someone's going to come in and just blowtorch all the, comics and figures and things that I've collected. But, there's a big part of me that, like I said, always gets nervous because, like, for instance, with Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's that episode D-Day that was very divisive. And a lot of people...
What happened in that episode?
So it was D's Day. So, like, there was an episode, it was like Mac Day, where, like, they did everything Mac wanted to do. It was very childish, but like he's like, I get to get my own way, and we do what I want to do all day, and you guys can't scream or get upset, or else I tack on time to the day and all this other stuff. And they were like, you only had like 3 bathroom breaks you could request, or something like that. I think or maybe that was in the D-Day episode, but obviously a brilliant show and whatever. But D-Day was similar. It was her day to do whatever she wanted to do. So, it was stuff that would humiliate the other guys and stuff they weren't interested in. But at one point, she was, like, putting on a play. And I remember it, like, airing, like, when it was on actual television or on FX or whatever. It didn't last long, though, because, like, the play was, like, it wasn't kind of. It was pretty offensive. It was meant to be funny, but, like, it had a lot of her, Martina Martinez, whatever the Irish stereotype one was. I think Taiwan Tammy, like just stuff that was like really Poor taste, meant to be funny, but like, you know, it was on a line, and maybe it crossed a line depending on who you asked. I'm not going to take a side on it. I only bring this up because you can't find that episode on streaming anywhere, and I don't know if it's ever going to be available. And I don't know if they made a DVD, but I kind of recall reading that like when they were about to, or if they did, they would not include that episode. So not only can certain things be edited out, or certain things be like just taken out completely, but you could have an episode, but things could be edited. Like for instance, Cosby Show. Too soon, I know, but Cosby Show, which a lot of people still watch. In fairness, you know what I mean. Whatever. I'm not going to get into a whole thing, but you know, in that show there was a scene where like they talk about Joan of Arc, which is on the DVD and was on when they aired the show, but on streaming, that bit is not nowhere to be found, and it's weird. Why? I don't know. Maybe that's another topic for someone else to look into and, you know, suss out or whatever. But to me, it's just crazy how you might have a version of something, but it's not the version. It's heavily edited. Certain scenes are taken out. Like, things are bleeped out. You know, I'm I guess a completionist, or I'm someone who wants the thing. I don't want the bootleg. I don't want, you know, a knockoff. I don't want something that's edited out or whatever. I want the genuine article. And I think a lot of people, more and more these days, are getting kind of tired of paying for streaming services and not actually owning anything. And then they're like, oh, cool, I got streaming. I can watch my favorite show. No, it's gone. It's not on this anymore. It's over on this platform. Or it's only available in, you know, New Zealand HBO. Oh, man, what am I going to do? Never watch it again. You know, I kind of went
I've been watching this for months, and now I got to pay $25 to watch it, although I'm already on this streaming while I was paying to watch it on that streaming, right? It's just like I'm paying out the nose. If I pay one time, I have it forever, right?
Yep. Like, I ended up buying the entire set of Perfect Strangers DVD. You know, nostalgia. It's from, you know, my childhood, and it's hilarious. You put on an episode every now and again, and it's, I don't know, it's just funny. It's silly. But, like, that was on Hulu, I think, for a while, and then all of a sudden, nowhere to be found for a while. I think now someone, maybe you or somebody, told me it's on, like, Pluto TV or somewhere for free.
Yeah, I think we're seeing something like that.
Which is great. I'm not at all mad that I own it, because it could be off Pluto again and then nowhere to be found again for a while. So for me, if it's something I love, I want access to it right away. I don't want a long distance thing, or a thing where I have to hunt for it, because the hunt can be a lot of fun, but it can also be discouraging. You know, you're like, oh man, I want this super rare, you know, graphic novel. I remember I had it when I was in college, and now I don't own it. Let me look it up. And, you know, oh, cool, I can buy it on eBay, you know, ripped to shreds for $600. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, I can, you know, get the digital version and, you know, have a subscription to, you know, DC or whatever it is, or Marvel. All right, that's cool, but, like, I really prefer, like, the physical feel of it. And that's, I know, some people are like that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is for you being a Deadpool fan before all of Deadpool, we've talked about that before, one of our first episodes of Memory Foam. You've been an OG Deadpool fan.
Before it was cool.
He became one of the... Right, exactly. And before, when they didn't even know they were going to have another, you know, issue of it. But now he's like one of the hottest Marvel and or superheroes out there. And now his stuff's even more expensive or harder to find, or the actual original runs of stuff, or even if you get reissues. It's just that what I'm trying to get at is that sometimes the stuff gets pushed up because of popularity, or because it's in the zeitgeist at the moment. So it's like, it's almost best, like, if you love it, get it now, and then maybe you'll be on the trend. And it's not about, like, well, I was a fan of it before it was popular. You know, it's not even that, but it's like you could get it at a price that's more affordable. And not even to flip it, just to own it.
Yep.
It's, you know. So I won't belabor it, but you probably see my shirt.
Show us those movies.
Yeah, this is actually 100. The hundreds.
You spent 100 on that?
No, the brand, the Hundreds, which is one of my favorite streetwear brands. Even with Bobby Hundreds now at Disney, he went over to do stuff there. But one of the founding members. And anyway, today we wanted to talk about, you know, take you to church. Talk about Dogma.
Yeah.
And there's some of that revolved. Because you were looking into that whole thing. I mean, we both have the DVD of the show.
We lucked out. Yeah. We lucked out with that because, and I actually, here's the copy of it right here. But like, So the whole deal with Dogma, it had a limited DVD run. I think mine says like Lionsgate or something. Yeah, Lionsgate Films or whatever. So long and short of it, for almost 25 years, it was kind of like a lost movie because Harvey Weinstein owned the rights to that movie. And he was basically holding it hostage. Not sure if he had a beef with Kevin Smith or what the issue was. But, legally it couldn't stream anywhere. And you could only really find it on DVD. And you might be able to find a cheap copy here or there, but usually they were beat to hell or they were like expensive. Who wants to spend $40 on a DVD? Like if you lucked out like Josh and I did, you might have gotten it from, anywhere from $20 or less, even in a bargain bin for a short time, possibly. Though it's not a bargain bin movie. It's excellent. In my opinion, it's one of my favorite movies ever. But finally, by 2024, they sold the rights to another company, and Weinstein, of course, was criminally convicted. And you can stream it, rent it, buy it. But the weird thing is, the physical media rights are still kind of restricted. So, like out of print copies can be pricey, and you might have to dig in the crates or stumble upon it or go on Amazon or eBay. But there's some reasonably priced copies. But for the longest time, it'd be like, oh, remember the movie Dogma? Yeah, I think I saw that. Oh, yeah, I can't find it anywhere. Whatever. Like, that's a shame. Like, when you have... And if whoever's listening to this doesn't like Dogma, that's fine. It could be any movie that, like, you thought was incredible, and then all of a sudden, for stupid reasons, for who knows, it was a grudge somebody had or whatever, just distribution rights, legal loopholes, whatever. It's like, this thing I thought was awesome, and I want to have a human experience and share this with someone else. They're going to be like, yeah, that sounds neat, cool story. And that's the end of it.
Jumping back to a previous episode of Memory Foam, we talked about Daylock quite a bit. They had this huge issue with their back catalog and Tommy Boy owning the rights to theirs, and it was just way too expensive. Clearing all the samples, especially with them, was a huge deal. So it can be just one of those things where the companies and the original artists, because they weren't, they didn't have the rights to it themselves, or because they were young and didn't know better. Things change now, but still, like, you don't know when it's going to, like, to go back to your first thing. You don't know when it's going to go off the thing. It is funny with I have this book from years ago. It's Askew View. I'll put that in proper later. But speaking of the Lionsgate thing, so it was actually because Disney, Miramax, Weinstein Company, like all kind of like because of the controversy that this movie. Oh, first, let me jump before I say all this. One, if you haven't seen Dogma yet, please go watch it. It's amazing. There's going to be a lot of spoiler alerts. We're going to talk like you've seen the movie and probably seen it more than once. We're going to get down, talk some deep stuff. If that's okay with you, fine. But I'm not going to
maybe watch the movie if you can before listening to this.
Yeah, or don't and go watch it after. Don't get mad at us because we're telling you right now it's going to be spoilers. I think it's a masterpiece. Go watch it. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, but I think even outside of Kevin Smith, it's a masterpiece. Anyway, because of the whole Catholic aspect, and we'll get into the plot in a minute, but they were worried about Disney because Disney had flopped or had retracted a lot of stuff when there was controversy in the past, like, oh, we don't want to piss people off. We're Disney. We don't want you to not come to our parks and shake hands with Mickey. They ended up selling it to Lionsgate for distribution, so Disney they could wash their hands of it, and that's where the Lionsgate came in. So
their white glove-covered hands like Mickey. Ha ha! I gotta wash up. Exactly. I gotta wash up. Ha ha! Sorry.
Yeah. So do you want to talk?
Sorry.
Do you want to talk about the kind of plot real quick of Dogma?
Yeah, sure. Actually, if we could, the whole protesting thing. Did you know that Kevin Smith protested his own film, which is hilarious? Yes. So yeah, he basically had a sign that said "Dogma is dog shit." And local news people interviewed him, and he was like, this is a terrible movie. Don't go see it. And no press is bad press, right? No publicity is bad. So that made people want it even more. They were like, oh, I got to see what this thing is, even if it does offend me. I got to see why I should be why should I be so offended? I need to prove that I also am a good Catholic and admonish this. And it's like, get over yourselves. But and if you're religious, that's wonderful. I feel like you can be religious and still think this movie's hilarious because it's all an act of fiction. Catholic. There's even a disclaimer at the beginning of the damn thing that tells you, hey, this is just us goofing around. This is a fun story. it makes you think. It questions a lot of like, fundamental religious things, but we're having fun, relax. Like, we're not like trying to be nasty or whatever, but people are going to be offended. No matter what, people are always going to be offended, especially nowadays when you can hop on your soapbox and type away and
especially with religion.
Yeah.
Especially.
Yeah. But I think it's just so cool that he did that. And you probably also know this because you're more of a Kevin Smith buff than I am. And you actually kind of got me more into Kevin Smith. Right. Outside of Dogma, Chasing Amy's probably my other favorite. I know a lot of people would be like, oh, Clerks and Mallrats. And I mean, I love Clerks and Mallrats as well. But anyways, well, maybe we could talk about Kevin Smith another one of these or whatever. But Clerks was not the first thing he conceived. It was actually Dogma. But he knew that the idea was so grandiose at the time, it would cost so much money. And I think the budget for Dogma ended up being like $10 million or whatever. Or more, if I'm wrong, sorry. But
I think it was 10 and it grossed 30.
Yeah, it did really well. They didn't realize it was going to do so well or think it was going to do so well. They underestimated it, which again is awesome because you have like an underdog, and I love a good underdog story. Especially when it's one of my guys who you're always like, yeah, man, I fucked with him when he did Clerks. Nice. But anyway, Dogma was the idea before Clerks, but he did Clerks because he only had like $27,000 to work with. So he did that movie, to try to get a little clout, to get a little foot in the door. And then it's like, sweet, I did that. I can do a few other movies. Let me do my real passion project, Dogma, which I'm glad that it took a while. Some ideas that are so good, sometimes you don't want to strike right away. You want to wait till you have the resources, the money, the backing, like
experience.
All the piece. Yeah, experience is the biggest thing, Yeah. So I'm kind of glad that it took as long as it did. And then a couple other little silly tidbits, and then, we can obviously delve into the movie, whatever. But there was, at the end of Clerks, there was a title card that read, Jay and Silent Bob will return in Dogma, which is really cool. Yeah. It's a fun little Easter egg, a very direct Easter egg, but still really cool. Before we get into the whole deal, there are certain characters. Well, I guess there's really no right or wrong. Do you want to get into the plot first, or maybe talk about the characters first and then get into the plot? Because maybe the characters, it kind of gives their backgrounds and their motives, which drive the plot. Ahead. I mean, so maybe okay.
This is definitely your realm, I think, with Mr. English Major.
Well, we'll see. I don't use it very often, ever. But like me, don't know how to read.
No, I think the better way to develop what's better.
The characters, and we'll talk about them more. But the main characters would be, and I got to start with Bartleby and Loki, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Loki, who was basically like the axe of God. He was like the wrath.
Matt Damon.
Yes. Yep. Matt Damon. Sorry. He was the rat, and then I'm sorry. Loki was did I say Loki? Loki was the one who was like the axe of God and whatever, and killed fools and whatever else. And you had Bartleby, who was Bartleby the Scrivener. Bartleby, who was basically very manipulative. He got in Loki's ear and was like, hey, I pity humans, and it's not okay that God is so vengeful in making us do this. So essentially, their motive in the whole thing, they're like, well, I shouldn't get that far yet, but with the two of them, basically what ended up happening with them is Bartleby got in Loki's ear and was like, hey, you should just tell God, screw you, man, I'm not doing this anymore. And that's what he did. He was hammered, drunk, told God, hey, F you, gave him the finger, whatever, I'm not killing people anymore. And God was like, okay, well, you and your buddy Bartleby, since Bartleby was in your ear, you guys are going to be fallen angels. You're going to be banished to Earth. So have fun with that. So their whole... Actually, we'll get into their whole deal as we talk about the plot. But so right from the jump, you can see that Bartleby and Loki are the bad guys, or are they? Yeah. Because I think they're sympathetic, right? They take pity on humans. They're like, why is God so vengeful and so nasty? We're not carrying this stuff out anymore. Okay, bye-bye, you're rejected, you're fallen angels. So off the jump, you can kind of see that, like, okay, I kind of feel sympathy for them, and later on you don't so much. But anyway, then you have Azrael, who's like really like the villain. And I'm so glad that they had, I can't think of the actor's name
Jason
now.
Lee.
Jason Lee. What about Earl, right? Jason Lee, who was amazing in all of the films he's been in for Kevin Smith. I think he was the perfect Azrael. Like, if you're going to be a snarky demon, whatever, like, perfect. You know who they were going to have instead of him, or ideas that were thrown around?
I don't remember off the top
Bill
of my
Murray,
head.
which I think would have been fun, but I don't know if, again, I don't think as good. John Travolta.
He was in that. He was already in that Angel movie, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I don't know, like, why? Why? And Adam Sandler. Ew, I'm a demon. Boo. Like, I don't. Day, like, whatever his whole deal. Like, so I'm really glad that, like, they cast him as that. But Azrael has a beef because he's a muse, right? Yes. And he's not amused by a lot of the things that happen, and he's very selfish. So when there was a great war in heaven, and you had like the rebel angels versus like the God angels, he didn't choose a side. He kind of just sat there.
It was before heaven was, before hell was created, that the great war of that's when, and he didn't choose sides, right?
Yeah, he didn't choose sides, but with like either the rebel or the hell based or
Lucifer. I couldn't think of Lucifer. When Lucifer went against the throne, there was a fraction between angels and
there were the rebels and the
sides.
Yeah, and I forget what the good angels or whatever, the godly angels, the heaven angels, hell's angels. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so Azrael was like, well, I'm just going to, play the sidelines and I'll pick whatever the side that wins, and obviously neither side's going to like that because it's like, you're not loyal to either of us. But his excuse, and I love it, he goes, but I'm an artist. Like, his whole deal is like, so I love that like he's so entitled. And like so much like, why am I going to fight in this war? Screw this. I'm going to chill. And then once whatever side wins, I'll join them because I'm an artist. Yeah. I shouldn't have to fight. And I kind of get that. I mean, everybody has their rules and stuff, but I don't know anyway. And it's funny because Serendipity, who's also a muse, she was like, oh, yeah, but, you have someone like Elvis who served in the war and, was an entertainer. And that's why he's the king and whatever. Elvis, and he was an artist. Like, he's an artist, so she made the argument, you can still be an artist and fight. So you're kind of a wussy or whatever. So that's Azrael's beef, is he's upset because he was banished to hell. And he doesn't like being there. And, he eventually surfaces. We'll say how in the plot. Then you have Bethany, who's the protagonist. The lead, who originally was going to be Alanis Morissette. I guess with Alanis, she felt like she was a bit intimidated. She's like, I'm not ready to, take on a full acting role or whatever. So they ended up giving her the role of God, which I thought was amazing.
She did great. I think.
Yeah, she did awesome. And so Bethany basically is the great grandniece of Jesus. And it's funny because in a scene in the movie, the 13th apostle, who is Rufus, Chris Rock, basically, tells her, like, no, Jesus, was immaculately conceived, but he had siblings. He's like, do you really think Joseph would have stayed with Mary if he wasn't getting a little, and Jesus didn't have siblings? So he's like, so that explains how you exist and how you're the last scion, descendant of Christ. And we'll find out why she's brought up into the movie and swept up into this whole plot once we get into it. This is just the characters. Jane, Silent Bob, of course. Great. Love them. Silent Bob only says like two things in the whole movie, which I love. He says no tickets and at the end I forget what he says. He just says one word, but like I think
he just says thank you, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says thank you or thanks or But Kevin Smith is a good actor. Like, when he would tear up and how he would get mad and do whatever, like he's got some acting chops as well.
For sure.
But they're the prophets, and they're there to guide and help Bethany through this adventure, which we'll get into. Then you have Metatron, the one true voice of God, played by Rickman, who Rickman really intimidated Jason Mewes, who is Jay of Jay and Silent Bob. And he didn't really do anything to make anybody feel intimidated or weird. It was just Mewes being in his own head. So he ended up basically memorizing every bit of dialogue for the movie, not just his own stuff. So that's quite admirable.
Yeah, Kevin Smith said to him, he's like, he's a British actor. They invented acting. You need to learn your shit because they don't like putting up with like nonsense. So that put the, scare on Jason Mewes. So he's like, he learned not just his lines, but the rest of it just to make sure.
Yep. And I love that. I want that to be my alarm. Hi, Metatron, the one true voice of God. Like when I wake up in the morning. The thing with Rickman was he had two conditions for the movie. I don't want any CGI for my wings. I want real wings. And his other bit was he didn't want any improvisation during his lines, his dialogue. He didn't want any messing about. Whereas Chris Rock as Rufus improvised some lines. And one of the biggest lines, which I can't and won't say verbatim, but basically was like, oh, Jesus owes me $12. It's like that quotable line. So a bunch of people were saying that. And that was not written in there. And Kevin Smith was like, that's great. We're leaving that in the movie. That's hilarious. So that's pretty much all. He
used the N-word too, I think, during that.
He did. That's why I'm not. Yeah. But so you have Bartleby and Loki and Azrael are the bad guys or the antagonists. You have Bethany, the protagonist. Jane, Silent Bob are, supporting characters that help Bethany, as is Rufus, the 13th apostle. Metatron is the voice of God, who's trying to figure out where God is. Again, we'll get into the plot. And then Serendipity is a muse who also helps the band of Bethany and Jane, Silent Bob, and Rufus.
Yeah. Yep. That covers everybody.
So that covers it. And really what all of the... And I'll give the plot away in like a few lines, like just talking about the meat, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, I guess. But really, it all hinges on plenary indulgence, which is basically a way where Catholics will have where like you can be absolved of sins. And in this case, in the movie, there's a grand reopening of this church, and George Carlin plays the cardinal and is incredible in it, and it's like the perfect role for him. And he's trying to bring back, religion and make it fun, and he's got Buddy Christ and all that and all that stuff. And I know you have like a figure of So that offended a lot of people.
Of course it did.
Of course it did. So anyway, the whole deal with that is their grand reopening. They have an archway that basically, if you pass through, you're absolved of all your old sins and you're clean. So with that in mind, Bartleby and Loki, basically at the beginning of the movie, and it changes, but at the beginning of the movie, their whole deal is they want to go back up to heaven. So for them, they're like, you know what? It's a multiple step process, but basically, if we walk through the archway, and then we wait, is it they walk through the arch? Do they have to lose their wings first? Do they have to become men first, and then walk through the archway?
I believe I don't know if it matters. I think it does. You have to be honest, I'm not sure.
So it's one or the other. So it's either they have to
become man.
Yeah, they have to become a man. They have to become men and walk through the archway and be forgiven of sins, or they can just walk through the archway as angels with their wings. They're absolved of their sins being they went against God. And then, as angels, they can go through, and then once they become men, then, they could go to heaven. So it's one of the two, but basically, more or less, it's a two-step process. Whichever step happens first, we'll just go with they have to lose their wings to become men. They have to go through the archway to be absolved of their sin. Then, if they die as men, they can go up to heaven. Now, I think it's losing
the wings first. Remembering the movie back, because remember they're trying to fight him and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's loses the wings, then going through the arches.
There was the one scene, though, where he's flying in the air and dumping like Bartleby's dumping bodies and whatever through the air, and they ask, did he go through the archway yet? And for me, in my mind, I thought, he still has his wings, though. So do they have to have the wings first? So that's a question that comes up.
I don't know
but
if
it's
it
fine.
even matters, but...
It doesn't. It's basically, there's conditions. You can't have the wings. So the whole idea is, I don't think as angels they could go back to heaven. The only way you can go back to heaven is if they're human. And if they're killed as humans. They can't kill themselves, because if they kill themselves, it's mortal sin. They're going to go to hell. So in order for them to go back to heaven, they have to go through the archway, lose their wings, be absolved of their sins, get killed, they can go to heaven. So it's a lot. And they both think very naively, or with great hubris as well, that like, oh, once we prove God wrong, and basically to do this would prove God wrong. So then there's the concern of, well, if you prove God wrong, is that going to erase existence because God's supposed to be infallible? Or will it not? And will God be like, hey, you two are clever, I forgive you? Like they're thinking that God's going to be impressed that they found a loophole and be like, hey, you scamps, you're welcome back in. From the jump, they're misinformed. Like,
well, they get sent a newspaper clipping about this reopening of this church with Catholicism. Wow, it's the whole Buddy Christ thing. They get sent this anonymous tip of like, oh, basically, if you walk through these arches, you're absolved of your sins. And then because I don't know how, well, it doesn't matter. We're going to ruin stuff anyway. It turns out it's Azrael, right? He gave them, he's a muse. He planted the seed into their brains. So then Bartleby's like, oh my God, if we do this, we can go back to heaven, but we got to do these steps that you just talked about. So it's kind of like, so they set off on their journey. They're in Wisconsin, but it's in New Jersey where this church is that they need to go to. So they kind of start, and along the way, they say, let's kill some sinners.
Which is so much fun. So the sequence where Bartleby just chills as Loki does all the dirty work is great. Yeah. He descends on Mooby's headquarters, which is like a burger franchise and whatever. And he says, you're all idolaters, you're the sin of idolatry. But he goes deeper and is like, you disowned your gay son. You, drugged your then girlfriend and had, one of your coworkers have sex with her, the janitor have sex with her so that she could cry and confess to you and you would be able to break up with her guilt-free. And like he was just going all around the room and all the things they did bad. And you're like, oh no, they're all going to die. And spoiler alert, they did. My favorite is the one lady who's in the boardroom and he's like, you have a pure soul. You're fine. And he's like, but wait a minute. You didn't say God bless you when I sneezed, which is great. And I love the little potato voodoo doll where he's like freaking the guy out and he goes, ooh, and he,
he carves the onion to the guy.
It's an onion. I thought it was a potato.
Yeah. I don't believe in voodoo.
Yeah.
So I will say, man, I know we're kind of bouncing around, so I'm sorry to everybody who's like, oh my God, you guys just deal with it, I guess. Yeah. There are few scenes in that movie that are just like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck when they are in the garage and he's like, and basically they kind of flip, like, Ben Affleck's kind of like, as Bartleby, kind of like, oh, we shouldn't be killing, feel sort of sorry for him, but then he flips and he's crazy where Loki will kill people and doesn't really think twice if they're sinners. And then he's like, wait, Bartleby's losing his mind being like, we have to finish this. It doesn't matter what happens, even if we erase existence. And he's like, you're taking on the throne. Loki's like, yeah, I've heard the speech before, meaning Lucifer, right? And that scene alone in that garage is just
wonderful.
Kiss.
And then you start, and then that's when Bartleby has this big change. Because at first he was like, hey, Loki, let's stop killing all these people. Or, and I feel bad for, for humankind. Us angels get all these benefits. But then he does a shift, and then he becomes jealous of people. Oh, they're the ones who get spared. They're the ones who get to get forgiven. We can never be forgiven.
Free will.
Exactly. So that was just a wonderful scene. Then also the scene when Jason Mewes or Jay very stupidly shoots the machine gun or whatever it is at Bartleby, and it shoots off his wings, and it's like you just gave him exactly what he wanted. But that laughter and the crying that he does while he's laughing, he kind of goes between both. I'm like, oh man, say what you will about him. If there are haters of him, whatever, and I'm not necessarily a fan of his, but I know sometimes people have had strong opinions against him. But dude can act. That was really, really
Phantoms,
good.
Yo.
What's that?
Ben Affleck was the bomb of Phantoms, yo. Yeah. I remember that was a line. Was that Jane Silent Bob? I keep saying it.
I think so, yeah.
But the other one that's that has a ton. I love Chris Rock's scene when he talks about
ideas,
13th Impossible and ideas and all that. All that stuff. Basically, he has those things. But the other one that's really high on my list is Alan Rickman when he confronts Bethany after she has the breakdown. He comes across the water.
That's also
shot.
That's also great.
So we didn't.
You just like the wet T-shirt. Be honest. Just kidding.
I thought it was an odd choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's
No,
in
you
a white
didn't.
t-shirt and she's like, what?
I remember you texting me. You're like, dude, this is the hottest scene in any movie. No, I'm just teasing.
There's like you can see the burn mark in my DVD. It's just where I've watched that alternate.
It just skips.
No. Yeah.
But she is a beautiful lady. I guess it's a crude way of just saying that, anyway.
But so to back up, she is, it kind of basically, so it starts off with this man on a boardwalk, this old man on the Jersey Shore, and these 3 kids on rollerblades come up and beat the living shit out of him. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then it kind of, the next thing I believe is this in the church where you get introduced to Bethany.
Yep.
And they start talking about this man who I just talked about he's a John Doe. Nobody knows who he is, no identification, and he's in a coma in the hospital downtown.
Yeah.
So then it kind of goes in. Bethany gets introduced. Bethany's an abortion clinic worker, even though she's
Janine
Catholic.
Garofalo.
Janine Garofalo's her
Yes,
coworker,
Queen.
which is a cool. And then from there, she leaves work basically and gets attacked by these same rollerblading kids, right? And that's when our
Jane,
heroes,
Silent
Jane, Silent Bob.
Yep, they come and save the day.
Yeah.
And we basically learn.
I messed up though. I messed up. She gets visited by
Metatron first. Okay,
yes,
so
she does.
So anyway, she basically Bethany, her whole backstory. Yeah, actually, I should probably talk a little bit more about Bethany as well. But her whole backstory is, she was married to this guy. It didn't work out. She wanted kids. I don't think he did. So anyways,
no, she couldn't have them.
Oh, she couldn't have them. That's right. And that's very important for the end of the movie as well. I forgot if it was. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. But anyway,
no, it's fine.
Bethany, kind of lives a very jaded life. She still goes to church, but it's like, yeah, whatever. She's cynical about it. She's like, I go because I'm a good Catholic, but I don't really care.
That's
whatever.
why I do my taxes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I guess I can't fudge my taxes anymore or whatever.
Or no, balance my checkbook, I think she says, right?
So, yeah. But there's a scene with, like, Metatron later on where she jokes around and says, well, if I'm the last scion, I guess I can't cheat on my taxes anymore. But anyway, she's asleep, and Metatron comes in with, my favorite new ringtone or alarm. I am Metatron, the one true voice of God. And so she freaks out and is like, ah. And he basically explains, like, hey, I'm the voice of God. There's this quest I want you to go on. And she's like, well, what the hell does any of this even mean? He goes, don't worry about it. You're given this, and he basically transports her to a restaurant nearby. And then, they talk. He basically tells her about the quest. She's going to be visited by 2 prophets. And, also he reveals that, like, and this goes back to Loki when he's drunk and he flips off God and tells him, I'm not doing your bidding anymore. Metatron is like, taking little shots, but then like spitting it out. And it's like, oh, we can't imbibe alcohol. And the reason for that being Loki ruined it for everybody. God's like, well, I'm not going to allow angels to drink anymore. Also, they're all going to be eunuchs. They won't have any genitalia or whatever. And it's funny, too, because at one point, like later on in the movie, Loki's like, if you just would have let us jerk off, maybe we wouldn't have all this repressed rage. Maybe Bartleby wouldn't be throwing humans, from the sky, down to the pavement or whatever. So she's visited by Metatron, and she thinks it's all bullshit. But then under her pillow, there's like a couple of maracas or whatever, and she's like, uh-oh, I think this is true.
They're at a Mexican restaurant.
Yep. So then it goes into what Josh was saying, where the same 3 punk kids who, beat up this John Doe on this boardwalk, they attack her. Jay and Silent Bob see her, and it's snooch to the booch or whatever, and they beat the kids up real good, and demon children. So it's okay. It's okay. It's demon children violence. That's the only kind of children violence that could be fine.
Fucks.
If they're demons. Only if they're demons. No, not at all. So they ward off the kids. The kids are gone, and she's like, "Holy moly!" And thank you for saving me, but you guys are kind of creepy. So Jay says something about, okay, well, we're going to go wherever and make a profit. Profit. And that sticks in her head, and she's like, oh, Metatron said there'd be 2 prophets. She's like, oh, man. So she ends up having, like a breakfast or something with them. They're hanging out in this diner, and, she basically says the quest that she's on, which is, hey, there's this archway that's going to absolve people of their sins, plenary indulgence. there's these two fallen angels who are going to take advantage of that and erase existence, and I need to help stop that or whatever. And of course, Jay and Silent Bob, you know, their characters being horn dogs, like, we're going to go anywhere you say, lady, like, you know, how. So
you know what's a fun I read in that book was that apparently the story was that Bethany was going to be a stripper, and that's how she meets Jay and Silent Bob. And he was going to say, make me come like Moses, and you can make a prophet. Oh
wow.
But then they obviously turned it to she works in an abortion clinic. Yeah. So I thought it was really good. Another little fun nugget for the Kevin Smith stuff. In the background, they're having that song playing, the Love is Strange. Oh, baby. Wow, wow. You know that song? It's playing in the background of the diner, and that's used definitely in a Clerks animated, if not other places, and that's like they're dancing with Suzanne the monkey. That's also used with Jay and Silent Bob through many different factions of the View Askew universe, and it's kind of fun that they had that and playing in the background. I always
is the animated. I know we both own the DVD sets of the animated series. Is that anywhere on streaming or anywhere?
I don't know. It was
could be some ABC. Lost media or somewhat lost media or rare media.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was through ABC, so it might be on Disney.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, sorry I had to jump in because I thought I love those little. There's so many. I could go probably on and on. Actually, I think in college I wrote a paper on Kevin Smith, and I love all his little cameos from people in his life / that people have been in other movies, all his little hints, and how like actually all of these characters, not all these, but a lot of the characters have little through lines to, like, for example, Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante in Clerks, is a news reporter, right?
Yeah.
But he's actually a cousin of Dante Hicks because he's Grant Hicks, or I forget what his name is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
I didn't
there's
pick
like
up the same last name. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like these fun little
I picked up it was him. I'm like, oh, that's the dude from Clerks. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool how, like, I love, like, kind of the rotating cast sometimes that will play different roles in certain franchises, and Kevin Smith just has such a strong, like, roster of people who are just so good and just make his universe feel like a universe, like its own little.
But then they're all like intertwined or related or something. They're like the girl who dies in the swimming pool, and they talk about in Mallrats and Clerks and Chasing Amy. They like, oh, you knew that girl. Like, it's just like it's like Easter eggs of its own self, its own making, rather. You know,
self-referential. True heads know. And that's a thing too. Like, we all want to share a human experience, and like when we feel like we're like in on something like in the know, only a few people know, hey, what's the password? Come into this secret speakeasy. It's just so rewarding to feel like, oh man, it's so cool to see other people who wave their freak flags like just as hard as you do over a certain thing. Like, yeah, okay, cool, we're into that. Like, it's just nice to be part of a culture of something. Like, it's really, really cool. But so like, all right, so we're at the point where so one of my favorite things is she basically tells, like, Jay and Silent Bob agree to go with her. Because like they're kind of like lusting after her. I mean, Silent Bob's more sweet. Like, he's not necessarily like creepy, but like Jay's his best bud. So what's he gonna do? It's kind of like me and Josh. I go through it all the time, but no, but not at all. But one of my favorite like bits in it or whatever is when she tells him basically like, there's no way I would ever sleep with you. She goes, maybe if like the world was ending, we were the last, and like everything was about to like explode or we were about to die, then sure, I would maybe make love to you or whatever. And he's like, I knew it, she's a slut. Bang. Like, that's probably my favorite line in the movie, because it's like, what? How does that make her she's a slut? Bang. So yeah,
anyway. That's why they're hanging out outside of the abortion clinics too.
Yeah, because they figure they put out
girls. Yeah.
Yep. It's like, oh my God, like, yikes. So eventually Rufus falls from the heavens, who's Chris Rock's character, 13th apostle, who lets them know, hey, a lot of stuff that you have thought you knew about God is incorrect, and what you thought you knew about Jesus actually is black. And there were 13 apostles, but of course they left me out because I'm black. And, the same kind of thing with like, anyway, I won't get into the serendipity character just yet, but because we haven't gone into it in the plot. But like, basically, Rufus's whole thing, which I love when he has that conversation with Bethany about, beliefs can be dangerous. Ideas are better to have, So I thought that was a really powerful thing. And why I brought up serendipity, because her whole thing was, you know, it's the same kind of thing. Beliefs can be dangerous. You can have faith, you know, but just be careful with the faith you have. But as long as you have faith in something, that's what's important. So like two very important messages that seem somewhat contradictory, but really aren't, you know. But I love how Kevin Smith had both ideas in the movie, and that's kind of like the theme of the whole movie. Like when you believe so strongly in something, when your convictions are so strong and you can't be told any other way, you're misguided, but you don't see it. You know, you're just you have tunnel vision. And that's not to say though that, you know, faith is a bad thing. Faith can be a wonderful thing as long as you have faith, you have hope. That's a very good thing. But it's when it's misdirected or misguided that causes problems, and that's the whole thing. Poor Bartleby and Loki, you know, they get played by Israel. He plants the seeds. He plants the seeds and manipulates them. And it's funny because Bartleby is a manipulator as well. He manipulates Loki. So it's kind of interesting that the tiers of manipulation and the you know, system of that or whatever. But anyway, Rufus falls from the heavens. And if you want to pick up a bit on the plot, my friend.
Oh, yeah. So they're driving on their quest. Jay wrecks the car by not shifting it. So they're starting to walk, and that's when Rufus falls, and he joins the crew. They go have lunch at Movies. Remember?
Your favorite. Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but I just had the shirt. So yeah, which is also Clerks 2, where that's the setting for Clerks 2.
Which I really liked.
Yeah, it's good. And so
the end. And that's our review. If anybody's like, I wonder what they thought about Clerks 2, it was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it too. The end. That's it. That's all you need.
We can do another episode on that.
We could do all of his movies.
We really could. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we are at basically
the strip club,
like
right?
You already said it.
They end up at the strip club.
Yeah, because the joke was that Rufus says, like, we spend mostly all our time in heaven watching The Living. And I know anything about you. And he reveals some secrets, and he says something about Jay. He's like, you jerk off more than any man on the planet. He goes, yeah, tell me something I don't know. And he goes, when you do it to guys, not guys. And then he's like, not all the time to Silent Bob.
Yep.
So then they're hanging out.
So what I was going to say with that, it's like some people could take that as like, oh, that's kind of a homophobic joke or a dig, but it's not, because what ends up happening is even though Silent Bob kind of gives him a look, he still accepts him. Mm-hmm. It's his friend. It's whatever. Like that's the thing too. And I think that's the big thing about this movie is acceptance. You know what I mean? Like letting other people have their ideas. And if you want to have a belief, fine, but have a belief that maybe you can question or challenge sometimes. Don't have it be so dogmatic, like the name of the movie, Dogma. Yeah. It only took us 50 minutes to get there, but that's why the movie's called what it is. Because when you subscribe too heavily to something, it's bad.
Right.
Like these damn streaming services. Just kidding.
So Bethany and Rufus realize that Jay and Silent Bob are gone. They find him in a strip club because Jay's like, I'm trying to prove to this guy that I'm not gay or whatever. So that's where they find Selma Hayek, which is Serendipity, the muse, stripping.
Which, to me, I'm sorry, Candy Girl's playing, which is great. I love that. To me, it's funny because you're like, I'll prove to you I'm not gay. Let's go somewhere where there's a bunch of horny guys. Like, okay. Yeah. Anyway, but it's just the irony of, the character Jay and how ridiculous he is.
Well, it's also serendipitous that they find serendipity.
There you go. And she is a muse, as we had mentioned. Her whole deal, though, instead of, not picking sides like Ezreal did, her whole, I don't even call it a fall from grace. It was her choice. She basically requested her release from heaven, like gave 2 weeks notice.
She had all these great ideas, right? Because she was a muse.
Right.
So she's like, I wanted to go solo.
Yep. So she's inspired, and her whole deal was, I've inspired people behind the top 19 of the 20 biggest blockbuster movies. The only one that I didn't was basically Home Alone, which is the kid who beats up all the burglars and whatever. But her problem
is funny. Can I take a pause button?
Yeah.
So why Jay and Silent Bob are where they are in Chicago, right? Illinois, is because Shermer, Illinois. They wanted to go see where John Hughes did all. Yep. They wanted to go to where all the Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, all those took place because they're just wuss guys, and we're gonna go. We're
wholesome. We're just gonna sell. We're gonna sell weed and clean up because no one there. Yeah.
And there's a lot of babes. Yeah. Which John Hughes did Home Alone, which is funny.
Yep. Yeah. So I just thought that's a nice other little tie-in. Yeah, that's pretty good. But
somebody, because she didn't say he did. She just goes, somebody sold their soul to the devil to get that thing.
Yep.
As popular as it was.
I guess, and we didn't mention it, but we kind of did now. Jay and Silent Bob, their whole deal was like they were going to go to this fictional place and, be drug kingpins, but that didn't work out. So they're just going back to Jersey. So not only are they prophets, but they're going back to Jersey, exactly where this church is, which is exactly where Bethany wants to be. So that really is just super convenient and serendipitous or fortuitous. Yeah. They're at the strip club and, they end up making pails with people and whatever else. And, it's kind of whatever. But Azrael is very disappointed in the three demon boys that they can't get the job done. So he summons up the doo-doo monster, Golgothan. I always have a hard time remembering what that's called. The shit demon. And I think you have a little figure of that as well. Yeah. Oh, look at him. He's so cute. He's very mad.
So, yeah, he's a cool character in the sense of where he comes from, right? Because he's from Calvary or Golgotha, where Christ was crucified, and so were other people. So the idea is when they died, at some point your body's done and it releases excrement, thus forming the Golgothan, the shit demon. So
brought to you by Dude Wipes.
So he comes and tries to mess their shit up, being,
literally. Which
Ethan Suppley is the voice of the shit demon.
That's cool.
Fun. Yeah.
So they end up defeating the Golgothan. I always have a hard time. Golgothan. They end up defeating the doo-doo monster.
Demon.
Shit demon. Yeah. It's Silent Bob really does a lot of the. He's like one of the most heroic, if not the most heroic, because like the things he ends up actually doing, like he helps Bethany revive, John Doe, and we'll get into what's going on there in the plot. But he sprays the shit demon with the spray, and they're like, "Oh, how'd you defeat it?" And Bethany looks at it, and it just says like, "Eliminate strong odors" or whatever. So it's like, oh, obviously, okay.
It's a fun little punchline.
Yep.
So he just sprays it. Yeah. No,
I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but we probably could just to help understand the plot. So basically, what we start to piece together as the viewer is this John Doe who was beat up on this boardwalk was actually God. So God, once a month, as Metatron explains later on, is a skee ball enthusiast, likes to play like once a month, and will just leave, not tell anybody in heaven, just go, inhabit a body, play skee ball for a little while, get his or her jollies, and then uninhabit the body and go back to heaven. Well, Azrael and the little demon boys, basically the whole plan is let's beat this body up. Now, if they were to beat the body or kill the body that God was inhabiting, God would just go right back up to heaven, whatever. But they figure, what if we incapacitated God? What if we put the host that God's inhabiting in a coma? Then we can carry out our plans and no one's going to be the wiser. So that's why Metatron... What's that?
He's trapped. God's trapped. And
God is trapped and form. Heaven can't find him. So that's why Metatron calls on Bethany in the first place. She's the last scion, but also she's a descendant of Christ. And, he's hoping that, like, she and these prophets, and then also they enlist the help of Rufus, that this group can figure out where God is. Or if they can't figure out where God is, at least stop Bartleby and Loki. Yes. And Azrael is he snuck away from hell. And Azrael's whole thing is he knows bloody well that if Bartleby and Loki prove God wrong, that he's not infallible, and they're absolved of their sins and they go up to heaven, existence is going to be done. And Azrael's fine with that. He doesn't want to go back to hell. Hell is awful. He'd rather just be nothingness. And I think ultimately, maybe Loki senses that, but I think ultimately Bartleby realizes, you know what? I don't want to go back home. I just want the pain to stop. I just want this torture of being
revenge too.
Yeah, I want my revenge. I want to have some revenge and kill some people and whatever else. But ultimately, I don't think he necessarily toward the end thought he was going to be getting back into heaven. He just was upset and was like, you know what? Fine, then I'll go to hell, or I just won't exist. Like, basically, I'd rather not exist than have to be God's servant.
Well, he's mad at God. He's vengeful.
Yeah, he's vengeful at God. And it doesn't matter.
God favors humans and all that.
Yep.
He starts becoming more and more upset about that aspect. So he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like a child.
But when he doesn't, he gets to the point where he doesn't care, when he just loses it, I think it's because he realizes our naivete that we thought like, oh, God will forgive us when, we go back up. Oh, you scamps, you proved me wrong. You stumped the prof. Good job. Like, no, I think he realized I'm going to erase existence, but you know what? Screw it. I'm going to take some revenge, get my jollies, and then nothingness. Great. I'm good with that because I'd rather not have to be stuck for thousands of more years on this planet with all these dumb humans that I hate.
Right. Even though he took sympathy on at one point, like we said earlier. But yeah, because they know, the good guys, if you will, they know that to prove God wrong will wipe out existence. So that's why they're going to stop them from doing it. But then Loki and Bartleby are a little late to the game on. Yeah, they just think like, oh, we're going to go to heaven and go back home.
Yeah, and God will forgive us.
Then it dawns on them.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. So after that,
Azrael reveals himself to them. Remember, he comes up and they didn't even piece it together then. He reveals himself in like a store or something. Like, you guys got to keep low
look at this pimp. Where have you been?
Yeah.
Yep, and he lets them know. He's like, you guys got to be. He's like, you guys got to be more under the radar. You got to quit killing and doing all this other stuff. And so basically,
both sides are looking for you.
Both sides are looking. Yeah. So he really manipulates them, and then eventually it all comes to a head, and it's purely coincidental. Like, at first, I kind of thought Bartleby and Loki had some kind of divine powers where they knew, oh, this ragtag group who's supposed to stop us are going to be getting on this, this train or whatever, right? They're on it's not a bus, it's a train.
It's a train.
So, come on, ride the train and ride. So they're on the train. Woot, woot. So they're on this train, and I think it's like Loki smoking like a doobie with
he's
Jane
actually
Bob.
faking it. If you notice, he doesn't actually smoke. He just kind of like pretends. He's like hitting the table.
Yeah. And
he's hanging out with them.
And you got Bartleby who's talking to Beth and Bethany, and it really seems like, ooh, are they going to have a little bit of romance? Like they're awfully, they got soft eyes for each other, but it's slowly revealed. Bethany is pretty hammered and reveals, hey, I'm on this ridiculous quest to stop these two angels and blah blah blah. And he's like, oh shit, and he realizes, what am I supposed to do?
But she does that. She played drunk really well.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
I gotta say, I don't love her performance. To be honest, she's not one of the strongest actors in the bunch. Not, at least in this movie. I don't know. I don't know a bunch of other stuff, but her drunk was amazing. She's like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to catch him? And she jumps at the air, chops at the jump, catch him like flies or something. So funny.
And then when Rufus stumbles in and all of a sudden the jig is up and you have Bartleby. He's has his hand around her neck and he's got the broken beer bottle. Which goes, oh, stop showing off! It's like,
oh yeah,
oh, quit showing off! You're pretending to stab me, you
Barry,
silly boy.
Barry, stop showing off. Yeah, they say his name Barry.
Yeah, that was actually going to be the name of the movie. Barry, stop showing off. No,
I will say right before, when Chris Rock, Rufus is in the train car sleeping. He's has his shoe.
Yeah, shoe. He's like, well, how would that be comfortable?
He wakes up and he's wakes up suddenly, he goes, poopy trip. That's the same thing that Ethan Suplee says in Mallrats when he gets startled by Jay and Silent Bob when he's staring at the 3D art and he's like, poopy trip.
Nice.
I just like that little. But that's what I mean. Kevin Smith is he's a phenomenal writer. He's a great director. He's a great actor, as you said. But I just love his ode to himself or his universe that he's created, and just puts little things in there that matter or not. If you don't know it, it doesn't matter. But if you do know it, like
it's
you said,
rewarding.
those little Easter eggs is rewarding.
It's nourishing.
So, yeah. So they get in a fight. Sorry, I sidetracked a bit.
That's okay.
With Bartleby and Loki because they realize that she's last Scion. We got to kill her. And kind of going back to what you said about Silent Bob being the kind of brute force or the brave one of the group, he throws him off the train. That's what he says is first line of the movie. Usually only says like one or like a one ending kind of line, but he had the two in this one.
Yeah.
He goes, no ticket, which obviously is Indiana Jones reference.
You know what
Indiana
else, though?
Jones.
I thought of when I was watching it, because obviously we watched it in preparation for this, is when he says no ticket, it's two angels. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get a ticket to heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, I think it's a little clever line where it's like, yeah, they're not getting into heaven. They don't have a ticket. They don't have tickets.
Yeah, I mean, it's a direct thing from a reference to Indiana Jones when he throws him out of the blimp, and the guy's like, whoa, and Indiana Jones is like, no ticket.
Oh, nice.
That's
okay.
what that is from.
All right. Well, it's weird that I extrapolated that, but and I didn't know that, but like to me, I kind of felt like it was a nod to like, hey, they're trying to get they think they can get tickets to heaven. They don't have tickets.
Well, it works. It
works on so many levels. The reference and the deeper meaning. So if Kevin Smith meant to do that, he's a genius. If not, he's an accidental 100%. Genius, but he's still a genius.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I mean, he definitely was doing the Indiana Jones thing. I don't know if he like double entendre or whatever, or double meaning, I guess would be more than that. But yeah, that's cool. He throws them. I wanted to say that Chris Rock, Rufus keeps calling Silent Bob Biggie.
Yeah, yep.
Biggie, the door.
So then they end up in the woods, hiding out, and Bethany's like, "Why are we here?" And Chris Rock is like, "Well, obviously we have to be where our enemies aren't. So like, let's not let's not be on the road or whatever. Right. Let's hide out or whatever." And then of course she has her freak out scene where she just gets fed up with this quest, with hanging around Jay because he's creepy, with all this religious stuff, all this pressure. And that's when, you said one of the most powerful scenes, if not the most, where Metatron explains to her, the importance of the quest and how she's the last scion, and how he had the same conversation with Jesus, how it's like, you're the son of God. I'm laying this on you at like 12 or 13 years old or however old he was. It's like, imagine telling a kid that, and it's not fair. And it's absolutely not, it's and I think it's relatable no matter who you are. Sometimes, like, depending on what family we're born into or what job we have or what role we think other people perceive that we should have or whatever, we can get a lot of pressure on ourselves, And those expectations can be just overwhelming. And it kind of gave her perspective, like, oh, yeah, but then also it gave her a sense of duty. Like, yeah, I am a big deal. And even though this isn't fair, I have to save humanity or else there's going to be nothingness. Yeah.
And it also, like, I think him also finally, he's like, he does say in there too, I had to let you come to this somewhat. I couldn't just tell you all this the first time we met. It would have been, your mind would have been like blown, or it would have been too much. But to be able to relate it to Jesus, it's almost, obviously Superman mirrors Jesus in some ways, right? Where it's like this kid with all of these amazing powers, you can't, with great power come great responsibilities, right? Ben.
Oh, Spidey.
Spider-Man, Uncle Ben. But that's the whole idea with a superhero, right? And I think coming to terms with who you are and what you're supposed to do, it's kind of like you're almost kind of trapped in what you can't be a normal person at that point. And I think she does accept it though, because she realizes like, oh yeah, like Jesus, or Superman, or the superheroes, as they're cool. You forget that they had a backstory. You forget that they had to come to realization. And that's why I think some of those transformation stories are big for people, because then it helps humanize them, right? Yeah. And that's where she's like, oh, Jesus, like he probably had a hard time of being a kid and being like, you're the son of God.
Yeah.
And God himself.
You're a middle-aged lady, so deal with it. Little boy, you can complain. Middle-aged woman, get over it and save the world. But yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, but still, I mean, it's big cross to bear.
Oh, and that's been another episode of But
I just want to say real quick, because Rufus talked about how it's kind of cool. It mirrors back to Rufus' conversation when he's like, why you're the last scion, like you kind of touched on, is that Jesus had brothers and sisters, because you went from the Bible, from him being kind of born to up to 12, and then basically him being 36, or almost to the end of his life, where he becomes the known Jesus. So it's kind of like it shows that there's this middle ground period and an adjustment period and time for him to wrap his head around and live a little, grow up a bit, and become the man he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the main plot at hand. So she gets revealed, and she takes it on, and then they're on their way to finish things up, close things out, right?
But not before a run-in with Ezreal.
With? Yes.
Yep. Right. So all of a sudden they find themselves... well, actually, no. There's a scene where they go to the Cardinal, and they talk. The group talks to him, and they're like, hey,
Yes, that's very important.
Stop this event. Don't let this plenary indulgence thing be a thing. Stop the event.
It was actually Jay's idea.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Remember?
Yeah. Yep.
Because he's like, he's reading a newspaper. He's like, why don't we just ask the Cardinal to stop this whole ceremony?
Yeah, which is awesome. Also, he's the one who mentions the whole John Doe thing. And
at the end.
So it's crazy because Bob is very much like the muscle of the group and the heart and whatever. Jay, though, is somehow the de facto leader when you think about it, because he's the one who comes up with all the brilliant ideas, even if it is happenstance or by accident. He's the one, who mentions their prophets in the first place. Right. He's the one who is like, oh, maybe we can just go to where this Cardinal is and talk to him and the whole deal. And then he's also the one who references, the John Doe being at the hospital, and he goes, oh, yeah, and there's a boardwalk nearby, and that's where, there's a skee ball. Boom. Yeah. So,
Rufus says, he's like, Moses was a drunk. Look what he accomplished.
Yep.
He says it to Bethany, but the same idea is you never know how great somebody can be, even though they have their problems, basically. So Jay's a stoner and says a lot of inappropriate stuff, really nearsighted in the sense of...
But somehow he's like a secret genius or prophet in spite of himself.
Yes.
That's what's so cool about his character, the dichotomy of his character, if you will. But so...
Yeah.
Anyways, Ezreal, there's one last... I'm sorry. So they talk to the Cardinal, and basically it's like, sorry, no dice, blah, blah, blah. F you, I'm not changing anything. So then they end up, out and about, and in a sweet way, Jay's like, oh, I stole the Cardinal's putter or driver or whatever, his golf club. She goes, oh, for you. And she's like, oh, that's sweet. So keep in mind that this is an item that belonged to a Cardinal, which is likely blessed. So they end up getting, all of a sudden, they find themselves, teleported, right? Somehow? Just all of a sudden, they're at the bar? Or they end up at the bar and Ezreal teleports in?
He teleports in.
Okay, so they're all kind of downtrodden and upset. Oh, yeah, that's right. They're upset because the Cardinal's like, no, I'm not going to stop the event.
So
okay, that's what it is.
Basically.
Because there is that, okay, I was confusing it with a scene where they teleport to the nice restaurant, but it's Metatron's there, and Jay's got the doobie, and he's like, whoa, I think this is starting to kick in, because all of a sudden they transported from the woods. Rufus was like, weren't we just in the woods? Okay. So anyway, they're upset. They're going, oh, yeah, that's right. They're going to get a drink because they're upset, whatever. So Ezreal ends up appearing. And more or less, like any good villain does, explains their motives and whatever else in their plan. And
although he does say that, he's like, I'm not going to give everything away. I've seen too many Bond movies.
But he does, which is hilarious. He gives away enough, and he's like, oh, let's see what's going on in the news.
He doesn't, but he doesn't tell about where the car or with God is, though.
Right. He doesn't give that bit away. But basically, they figure out, what the whole plan is without that one key detail. He basically spills the whole. He's like, I'll tell you everything except for the one key thing.
Yeah. He also has one of my favorite jokes.
Holy bartender.
Yeah. He's like, to the bartender, the guy's like, where'd you come from, to Azrael? And he's like, I think you've had enough. You need to leave. He's like, come on, barkeep, one more just for the road. And he's like, okay, what do you have? And he's like, how about a holy bartender? He's like, I don't know how to make that. What's that? And he goes, you don't know how to make it? And he pulls out an Uzi and shoots up the bartender. Holy bartender.
And much later on, Jay is like, oh, I get it. That was fucking hilarious.
Holy bartender. It's fucking hilarious.
So he shoots him up, and basically Serendipity ends up, joining them. And so it's the whole group. They're all stuck, being held hostage. Serendipity is musing over to Silent Bob like, hey,
Yeah. Because the roller skate kids are there too, by the way, at this point.
Yes,
and helping Ezreal keep him under
at bay. They're keeping
wraps.
Everybody at bay. Yeah. So she's nodding over to it, and Ezreal's like, "Really? You think that this? You really think that that's going to stop me or whatever? I'm a fucking demon." That's one of my favorite.
I love.
I'm an artist. I'm a fucking demon. He's so entitled. He's so entitled and thinks so highly of himself. So he's like, "Yeah, okay, go ahead, give me a crack with that thing." And so again, Bob is the heroic dude. Boom, kills him. So again, he's the muscle of the group. And he's like, but I'm a fucking demon. And like, it's like, oh, like, it was an instrument of, God in a way. It was blessed. It was the Cardinals. So boom, you're done
he's
for.
He's such a prick that he would bless his own putters for a better golf game.
Yep. So that's the end of Ezreal. So then our heroes eventually in our end scene.
I want to say real quick. Remember Bethany? They're like, bless the water, Bethany, because she blesses the water under the bar. They put the kids, the roller skater kids, into the bar. They burn their heads off because it's holy water at this point. And she's like, what? They're like, well, it's one of the things you get with your divinity or with your bloodline that you have little things. She's like, I can't wait to go to my next dinner party and turn water into wine.
Yep. Oh, Bethany. 8 p.m. Sundays on ABC. The Last Scion. That would definitely piss people off. There's like a sitcom of get ready because this lady is the Last Scion, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. She could turn water into wine, though. They're at like the water cooler.
Find out next week.
They're at the water cooler, and she taps it, and it's wine. One of those days.
Drunk.
So now we're at our final scene where they run to the church to try to stop Bartleby and Loki.
Well, they see it on TV, by the way.
Yeah, that's when
TV, the massacre of the staff.
Yeah, when Ezreal is showing them on TV. Like, let's check what's going on in current events, and hits the thing.
Because Jay's like, let's watch Davy and Goliath, which is funny because that's a religious kid show. And he's like, I was thinking something much more current. And then it shows like footage of the newscast, and it's massacre happening basically down to the church because Loki and Bartleby have shown up.
Yeah. Yep. And the interesting thing is when they show up, Loki has his wings clipped and is drinking. So now he's a human and he's smashed.
By the way, his drunk is even better than Bethany.
It's really good. Yeah.
So good.
Great drunken acting in this movie.
And it's not an easy thing to do. Really.
No,
some people like just try to be too silly or too fun. Like Matt Damon, another chef's kiss for me.
Yeah,
right there, his drunk.
The cast was so good in this. Like there wasn't any glaring anything where I'm like, what the hell is so and so doing in this?
Well, that was another thing. I'll take a sidestep that Scott Mosier talked about in that book I read. Is that this is one of they had some big names like Michael Rooker and other people in Mallrats, for example, but this one is by far the biggest hitting level of cast, biggest hitters of cast with Salma Hayek, with Alan Rickman, Ben Affleck. Not that they knew Ben Affleck, but Matt Damon's in there. They have
Linda
George
Fiorentino.
Carlin. They have all
which for her time in that time span, the late '90s, early 2000s, she was in a bunch of stuff. She was in Men in Black, and I can't think of any other movies, but she was a thing, for a while. So I mean, for its time. And even nowadays, like that's a really solid cast, like a really, really good cast.
But for them to go from Clerks and Mallrats to and chasing it, like they
have
that, like
unknowns
you talked about
to mainstream,
and to try and do that first out of the gate. Forget budget, forget knowing, but trying to direct people and understand how to be on a movie set with big actors. So anyway, they're at their last thing here. Bartleby has cut off Loki's wings. He's now human. He's drunk. Take it away, Vince.
Yeah, so then the whole thing is like they're like, oh, have you basically he tells them, oh, like Bartleby lost it, and Loki at this point you feel bad for Loki because like he's been manipulated by Bartleby. He was initially manipulated by Bartleby, and then they were cast down as fallen angels. Then Loki's like, man, forget this. I'm just gonna live out the rest of my days, which is gonna be eternity. On this planet, I'm going back to Wisconsin or wherever. And he's like, and that's when Bartleby's like, no, we're going home or whatever. So, poor Loki's just kind of roped into it, and he's like just reluctant to be there. And he basically spills the beans to, the group and whatever, that like, Bartleby's lost it and is like picking people up off the street and throwing them, and they land and splat, and it's awful. So you feel bad for him because it's, he's kind of being bullied in a way. And it was not super shocking, but it was when I first saw the movie when Bartleby ends up being like, I'm sorry, my friend, and he stabs him and kills him. And he's like, you lost your way, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that really sucked for Loki because, he was killed. So it's like, I was wondering, is he going to end up just going to hell now? Like, probably. Because, eventually, spoiler alert, God, comes to, and we'll get to all that. But like, well, anyway, we'll address that toward the end. But anywho, there's a whole fricas that breaks out in a fight and whatever, and that's when Jay, is the one who mentions like, oh, there's John Doe. Or what's the reference? He says something like, you're gonna end up like John Doe, or
about when he reveals it.
Yeah, when he reveals that, like, oh, this, essentially the John Doe who's inhabited by God in a coma is at this hospital that's very close by and has skee balls, so it all checks out. It all maths.
Yeah.
So Bethany's like, okay, Bob, come with me, and you guys distract, which is really shitty, because it's like, what are we going to do against this powerful fallen angel? Okay. So anywho,
keep him from going through the gates.
Yeah.
Or the arch.
So they do the best they can at distracting him, and stupidly Jay, shoots his wings off with the machine gun, thinking he's going to kill him, or an Uzi or whatever it is.
Machine gun.
And that's when he laughs and cries maniacally and is like, awesome, now I'm human, now I'm one step closer to where I want to be. And all hope looks like it's basically going to be lost. But, and it's funny, too, because as Bethany and Bob are running to, like, hospital, it's like, this is the apocalypse. Like, please act accordingly. Or, like, just something ridiculous.
People are just coming out of the hospital.
Freaking out and, like, this is not a drill. This is the apocalypse. Yeah. So they run up to the room, and basically the idea is to pull John Doe, who's inhabited by God, in a coma, off life support so that he dies or just freaks out for a minute so that God can
loses life support.
Yeah. Boom. So once that happens, then awesome. Then the door opens of the church. Alanis Morissette comes out, and that's the big emotional scene where Bartleby, realizes the jig is up, and he cries and he says he's sorry, and Alanis hugs him. Alanis hugs him, and that's earlier what I was going to say about Serendipity, the Muse, is where Rufus had mentioned, Jesus was black and there were 13 apostles or whatever. Also, the importance of, like, women and how all that was downplayed and how actually God's a woman. And then, so anyway, it's just really showing.
Muse says, I can give the ideas, but I can't control the final edit.
Exactly. And that just shows that, like, the winners write history, or, you know what I mean? Whoever's writing it, obviously, if they're insecure, or they don't want other groups or races coming to prominence, they're going to exclude. Jesus was definitely not black. God, there's no way God's a woman, and when that's actually the case in this universe, in this movie, and whatever. So, because in Metatron's whole thing, he is the one true voice of God. He's the voice of God because, for anybody else to listen to God, their head's going to explode. They just can't process it. Any other being, they would just...
our human ears can't handle it.
And it's cool that it's Alanis, because she's got such a beautiful, powerful voice, and I just thought that was so funny and perfect. So she ends up screaming or singing or whatever she does, and Bartleby's head blows up, and then God sets things right. Everything's back to normal, with a couple key differences. So I glossed over it, but Bethany, in the scuffle, before God comes around, she ends up dying. She bleeds.
Yeah, because when God comes out of the host of the John Doe, basically lightning kind of comes out, I guess, or pure power, and it zaps her, and it cuts her and blows right through her abdomen, right? And then she just starts
bleeds
blood.
Out. Yeah. So she's...
Right, and Bob comes back with her to the site of the church.
And again, though, the crying that Kevin Smith does as Bob was really good. And to cry silently and to look devastated like that cannot be easy. Yeah. So again, Kevin Smith has got some chops, like with acting as well. I was impressed by that. I'm like, to be silent and crying like that, and like I was tearing up. I'm like, oh my God. And Bethany's brought back to life. Not only that, but Metatron. And I thought it was a little creepy how he like grabbed her abdomen, but was like, oh, and you were the last scion. Now this is the last scion. And Bethany now is pregnant. She can conceive. But then I realized, okay, that's Immaculate Conception. So now is this going to be the second coming of Christ? So that ended up giving me all kinds of like fan theory rabbit hole stuff where it's like, okay, like questions for me are like, Loki, what happened with him? Did God, feel bad for Loki, and is Loki in heaven, or was it just like, no?
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Yeah. What did he do?
Yeah.
What happened?
Because
also
Loki?
God snapped her fingers, and all the dead bodies are gone.
Because here's the thing: Loki was killed. Loki was killed as a man when God was still.
Oh, Loki. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Loki was still killed as a man, right? While God was still in a coma. But didn't go through the gate. So it's like, I don't know. Like, so what ended up happening? Did Loki just go to hell, not existence, go to heaven? Did God feel bad? Who knows? But my other thing too
that's, I think, kind of the open-ended discussion that kind of is fun to
which
have.
is nice when you don't have such a tidy ending, when you get to theorize and whatever and connect dots that may or may not be there. But then the same thing, like, okay, so then once Bethany gives birth, that's going to be like the second coming of Christ, more or less. So it's like that.
Well, would it though? Because I guess it's more just like her bloodline. Like she wasn't another Christ; she was just a bloodline.
True, but I mean, but that's all up for interpretation.
Conception? Yeah, so I guess because immaculate conception.
Because Jesus was
Mary.
immaculately conceived with a human, right?
Right.
Mary.
Right.
Same thing.
Same thing, right?
Yeah. So this is the same thing. Bethany's like, kind of like a Mary figure. So it's like, in a way, I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same entity. It's not the same Christ. But in a way, it's like. Or it's the first coming of a new Christ. Yeah, and maybe that is a symbolic statement all in its own. The coming of a new Christ. Now that we have this new understanding of religion, and this movie tried to like put ideas in our heads rather than beliefs, is this a dawn of a new Christ where we think about Christ differently?
Right. It's interesting.
And religion, yeah. So, but I mean, what an amazing movie.
I'll say a personal fun, couple of things for me. Like I stated at the top, big fan of Kevin Smith. I'm wearing a movie shirt. This is, like I said, the 100s. It's like a collab they did with Kevin Smith. But I also, early on, Kevin Smith was very, kind of on the Star Wars trend, I guess. But this was way back before the internet, what it was. And I remember I bought like a Banky hat. He has the hat goes backwards and Chasing Amy. I have the shirt, the Brody shirt. That he wears in Mallrats. I just remember this was one of the first, and I've showed you the little figures. I went to town because Kevin Smith had a bunch of merchandise, and it was one of the first, probably, back in high school, early 2000s range when I was buying all this stuff. Like it was one of the first times I really started buying a lot of merchandise that was from movies and in that universe, and they were doing things that weren't just like, here's a pin or an action figure. It was like, here's the Buddy Christ, or here's the T-shirt that they wore, or here's the hat they wore. It was a really cool way of merchandising. I like that. And then the other thing was really neat in my personal life. So I was raised Catholic. I don't know if you knew that, Vince, or not, and I'd go every Sunday. I was an altar boy, that kind of thing. I don't prescribe to religion now, but growing up, I went with my mom every Sunday. I definitely had my questions. There's definitely a lot of things that kind of like that could be a whole other episode. But fun part is I got the priest, the Father Bob, who at my church, to watch Dogma, which is kind of a mind.
How did he feel?
If you think about so it's what I remember. It's kind of hazy because it's so long ago, back in 1990 or a little after, obviously, when it came out on DVD. But I think he basically was like, he said it was really, he was like a very cool, like nice guy, like open-minded as far as priests can go. But he was kind of like, he's like, he liked it. He's like, it was a bit foul language, but he's like, I thought it was a really nice message and I actually enjoyed it. So he actually thought it, and he thought it was good. And I think that's one of the messages that a lot of people lose. You have people who are panning this movie and protesting this movie who didn't, funny part is some of these people who were against it didn't even see it first.
Right. People just want to be offended by something. They just want an excuse to be offended.
Right. But it really does, I think, instill more faith. I remember being actually more impressed by the idea of all of this and greater power through this movie than almost any time sitting in church in a pew. Because this really made things more fantastical, not in just that sense, not just like, woo, carnival ride, the roller coaster, but more in the sense of like, ideas are open. And that's what I never liked about a lot of religion. It's like what we talked about before is that it's very closed-minded. Like, listen to the story, listen to me talk. I have questions. No questions. And I never.
That's how my church experience was. So I, as I think we talked about, I think in our last episode of Memory Foam with our friends at Spooky Sips, Episcopalian, Catholic Light was what I am.
Diet Catholic, you said?
Yeah, Diet Catholic, basically. But like, in school and stuff, I was in like, choir and all kinds of like. So religion always like definitely was something that was a part of my life. I did church school for a short time, whatever, and my mom thought it was important to at least show us religion and go.
Sure.
So we went, for a couple of years, but I remember being like so bored, and we'd have like, they actually had little like doodle sheets where you could like do drawings when you were bored. Like that's how like boring church was. Like there were like these little doodle packets.
They knew it.
And yeah, they knew how boring it was. So they had like the little pencils and the little pads, and you could doodle. I think it even said doodle pad. And I remember like I would go and be like, I have to go to the bathroom, and I would just sit and like try to take the longest dump possible, like the longest Golgothan possible. Because I was bored, and I'd come back, and my mom would be annoyed, like, you've been gone for 20 minutes. And it's like, yep, is church almost over, please? And it very much was just like, was boring, to the point where like taking a dump or like doodling on a pad was more fun. And this was back before smartphones. So I was literally just staring at like the front of the door of the stall, just bored duking because the church was so boring. Or like doodling little naughty things, and then like, that was my biggest fear, that like we would sit down like, a particular Sunday, and then the next Sunday we'd sit down and my mom would be like, what's on this doodle sheet? Oh my goodness, I knew you would draw something like this. You know what I mean? Like that was a fear of mine that my mom would like. Anyways,
that's funny.
But after a couple of years, she said, it's up to you if you want to keep going or not. You don't have to. I just wanted to, get you guys like,
stock.
Baptized, confirmed, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, I just want to be home on Sundays and watch, Ren and Stimpy and Rugrats and Rocko's Modern Life, and not go to church and also sleep in. So I remember she still went for several months after, and then eventually stopped. But I don't know. I struggle with it. I would say that my idea, rather than belief, is that, there's some sort of an order to things that we're just not aware of or perceptive of, whether that's a God or not, who knows? But there are definitely times in intense stress or sadness that I will talk to God, or what might be like a God. And, for me, I think, if religion's done right, if church is done right, it's a wonderful sense of community that people can have with each other. It can be a nice break. It can be something that reminds you to be a good person. But, it can also be very damaging and very bad if done incorrectly, done in the wrong way. I mean, so many people have died in God's name in religious wars and things. You're getting lost in the sauce, my friends, And isn't religion supposed to be a personal thing, a one-on-one thing? So why should you admonish or be so excited for someone else if they believe or not? It's supposed to be a personal thing. And I feel like God is everywhere if you believe, so you don't have to go to church. It's like that one rap song, you don't have to go to church to get to know yo God. Of course, he's talking about killing someone, but same idea, just not as violent.
Right. I mean, is it Serendipity says in that, like you or Rufus, it doesn't matter. Like you don't even celebrate your faith, or even Bartleby might say it. I think you don't celebrate your faith. It's just something you get through. You have to get through, or like I mean, it's touched on several times in the movie. It's just like you go and sit there, and why do you keep going? What's this obligation? And it's like, it doesn't reinvigorate. It doesn't reinvigorate you. It doesn't give you a sense of fullness anymore. It just is an obligation.
There's resentment.
You have to do.
You resent, and that's never anything good. You want it to be positive. You don't want it to be something that you're going to resent. So I think church definitely turns a lot of people off who might really benefit from being part of another church community or other things. But yeah, I mean, I would say I struggle. I ultimately, I don't know if I believe in the idea of like the religious God or whatever, but I believe that there's an order to things, and I like to think that it's highly possible that, maybe there is in fact a God. I feel like regardless, having faith that there's an order to something, having faith in the goodness of people is important and keeps you from being cynical all the time and angry and negative and whatever else. So people can believe what they want, but, like Rufus said, it's better to have ideas. Much better to have ideas than beliefs, because ideas can change You can talk about ideas. Beliefs, forget it. You know, if you have a belief, it's really hard to change it.
This has been Memory Foam, audio comfort for your ears. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For merch, links, and everything else, head over to coolsideofthepillow.com. By the way, if you're only listening to this, you're missing half the show. We've got full video episodes up on YouTube. Also, make sure you're following us on Instagram at CoolSideOfThePillowPodOfficial. Thanks for sinking in to this episode of Memory Foam. Until next time.